Hey guys, Metallica28 back again, here to bring you guys another video. This one's going to be doing part 10 of my 2014 Mets regular season series. And it's been, a couple of weeks since I made my last video, and a lot of things have happened since then, and it's not been good. So let's get right to it. The New York Mets, as of right now, just got swept 3 games from the Washington Nationals after they won 3 out of 4 in Philadelphia. So right now, as we speak, the Mets are 10.5 out of the NL East. And they're 8 games under 500 now. So we can pretty much say that one more series loss in the division from the Mets, and you can pretty much call it for the season. I think the season will then be over, and then September is going to be all about auditioning our prospects like Flores, Dendecker, Montero, possibly Syndergaard, and so on. So right now, as we speak, Rafael Montero is back up in the majors. He's in the rotation. He had a start, and he didn't pitch so well at all. And that's concerning because as of right now, for the entire year, Rafael Montero doesn't have a win yet with the Mets, and he hasn't shown that command that everyone is raving about it when he was in AAA. So a little concerning there with Montero, but obviously he's still completely young, and he has a lot of time to develop, his command. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, the same thing happened with Zach Wheeler, and look at him now. He's pitching a lot better. He's looking like the ace that they thought he would be prior to the whole Matt Harvey craze. So we'll see what happens with that. As for Syndergaard, he's still not up in the majors yet, and it's possible that he could be up early to mid-September is what they're saying, but that remains to be seen as well. Now, in this video, what I'm going to explain is ways that the Mets can try to improve for next year that I've been saying in every fucking video I've been making, but I'm going to make it a little different again. I don't know if you guys heard the news, but Troy Tulowitzki, a guy that I said the Mets should really go all out for in the offseason, this guy is out for the year. He's out for the year again. I mean, he has another injury, and it's changing every Mets fans and every Mets beat writer and every Mets follower opinion change. Everyone's opinion is changing now on trying to go after Troy Tulowitzki in the offseason because this guy is showing you that all he does best is get hurt. This guy never stays healthy, and he's getting paid a ton of money for the next 5 to 6 years. So it really doesn't seem like a logical trade for the Mets to pull in obtaining Tulowitzki from Colorado and trading one of their big guys from AAA like Noah Syndergaard. I don't see the Mets doing that. So let's shift focus to the other star in Colorado, and that's Carlos Gonzalez. This has got to be the 15th fucking time I've said this, but now, for sure, I believe it's even more clear that the Mets are going to go after Carlos Gonzalez more than Troy Tulowitzki. If anything, Tulowitzki is probably going to end up either on the St. Louis Cardinals or the New York Yankees, to be honest. The Yankees and Cardinals both have the money to pay the guy, while the Mets, they do, but they're not going to spend it. I mean, let's just be real. They're not going to spend the money on his contract. However, the Cardinals have the prospects, while the Yankees don't really have it. So the Yankees really would have to deplete the entire farm system to get him, and probably throw in some proven major league guys, maybe like a Chase Headley or a Martin Prado, or someone else is going to have to get thrown in the mix. So we'll see what happens with that. But the Mets have the prospects, they just don't have the money. And at this point, I don't want Tulowitzki. Okay, I know Tulowitzki is 1,000 million times better than fucking Ruben Tejada and Flores, but at this point, I think we can finally say the Mets should not go after Troy Tulowitzki and should focus on a more realistic option, and that's Carlos Gonzalez. The guy makes less money. Yes, he gets hurt as well, but he does not get hurt as much as Tulowitzki. He's a left fielder, which is obviously what the Mets need. He's a true cleanup hitter, which is what the Mets need. And like I said, his contract is very reasonable. He'll be making $16 million next year, as opposed to Tulowitzki making $20 each single year. You know what I'm saying? So, and another thing, he's going to cost a lot less in prospects in a deal than Tulowitzki. I don't think the Mets are going to send Wheeler. I don't think the Mets are going to have to send Noah Syndergaard in the deal either. I'm looking more to the second tier guys like Dylan G, Rafael Montero, Jonathan East, Steven Matz. Those type of guys are going to have to get sent over in a trade for Carlos Gonzalez. So let's get right to it. Here we go. Right now, the Mets, what they're doing is they're auditioning Matt Dendecker in left field. They're auditioning Wilmer Flores at shortstop, and they're auditioning Rafael Montero in the bullpen. These are all, in the rotation, sorry. These are all guys that are going to most likely be trade chips in the offseason, which is why the Mets are basically throwing in the towel for 2014. We can pretty much say that now. And they're looking forward to 2015 and beyond. For once, they're going to admit it. That's exactly what they're doing, okay? Let's look at every position. Catcher, Darno had a bounce-back year. His average is still a little low, but he's having a great year. Lucas Duda, I mean, what else can we say about him? He's having an amazing year. This is a career year for him. Same thing with Daniel Murphy. He was an all-star finally, and he's having a career year. He's leading the NL in hits right now. He's probably gonna win the Silver Slugger award at second base. He's a keeper. David Wright, obviously the captain. He actually had a down year this year. David Wright's not playing well at all this year. His average is way under 300. His home run total is not even at 10 yet. So he's looking for a bounce back year next year. And then of course the center and right fielders, Juan Lagares and Curtis Granderson. Curtis Granderson, the prized offseason pickup from us. He's had a pretty okay year. You know, he's in the mid-teens in home runs. You know, his RBI total's kind of I think it's around 50. His average is pretty bad. It's around 230, 240. So yeah, Curtis Granderson, expecting what you expect from him, to hit low and hit for power. But he needs to hit for more home runs. Let's just be real. But he's been doing a pretty decent job at the leadoff spot in the lineup after he got moved there from the cleanup spot. So we'll give him some slack there. And then, of course, Juan Lagares is center field. What more can you say about him defensively? He's arguably the best defensive center fielder in all of baseball. I mean, let's just be real. He's up there with Mike Trout and Carlos Gomez and others. So he's that good. However, his bat needs to pick it up. He's batting around 280, which is really good. And, he has like 30-something RBIs. He has like no home runs. He has like 2 or 3 home runs. So he needs to pick that up a little bit. So basically the positions of need right now, shortstop and left field. You got Flores at short. You got Dendecker in left. They're auditioning. So those are the 2 spots the Mets are going to have to look at. And I'm going to throw in one more that I've mentioned before in my earlier videos, and that's the closer spot. Henry Mejia has not been doing so well lately in the closer spot. And I don't think Familia is ready for that position yet either. And when Parnell comes back next year, I think he's going to be a shell of what he was last year. I don't think Parnell can come back to be the closer. So I would add the closer position as the third position in need in that order of relevance that they need to fill in the offseason. With money. Not trading, but with money. So, let's get to it. This is what I think is going to happen and what I think the Mets should do. And I want you guys to comment in the video when I'm done on what you guys think about this. So, first things first. Let's just celebrate the fact that Chris Young's not on this fucking team anymore. He got DFA'd, designated for assignment, so he's no longer on the Mets. They're basically going to eat the rest of his contract, and he's gone. So that was happy days when that happened. So when they did that, and they brought up Flores and Dendecker to play short and left, you knew right there the Mets were throwing in the towel for the season. But many Mets fans weren't that mad about it, and I know I wasn't, because you know what? Let's just be real. The Mets are not going anywhere in 2014, okay? They're not. And I really don't think the Mets should go out and try to make a trade in the next 2 weeks before the waiver trade deadline is up on August 31st. Try to make a move to try to get into a wild card this year. I don't think it's worth it, because that means they're going to have to trade one of their younger pitchers. And why do that and rush that when you basically have no one in the rotation to replace them right now anyway, who isn't that great? And why do that when you can send him in the deal next year for a bigger piece? So I don't think the Mets should rush that. Let's just focus on 2015 beyond. Matt Harvey's not coming back to pitch this year. He's pitching in 2015. So that's another thing I want to get off my chest. And Terry Collins is most likely coming back next year for his final year of the contract. And honestly, you know what? I think he deserves a chance. This guy has been here for 4 years, and every fucking year he's been here, he's had a horrible team to deal with. And he's done a pretty decent job at keeping them at least 7, 6, 5 games under 500 for the year. He hasn't tanked in the second half like other managers have for the Mets in the past with, for example, Art Howell and Jerry Manuel. Okay, so let's just be real here. Terry Collins has not done a horrible job. He's not the best manager. He's not even a great manager. He's an okay manager, but he deserves a chance for one more year when possibly the Mets have a pretty good team next year. So give him that chance. If he screws up next year, then yeah, get his ass out of here. Bring in another manager for 2016. But anyway, first things first. The Mets, if they want to add payroll, they're going to have to shed some payroll. This is what the Mets are going to do. First things first, let's trade Bartolo Colon to a contending team next year, okay? Teams like the Detroit Tigers, the Baltimore Orioles, the Los Angeles Angels, teams like that need to take on Bartolo Colon, and I think the Mets will be able to trade him away to one of those teams. The front runner for that team, for that trade, though, I believe will be the Baltimore Orioles. I believe the Baltimore Orioles will eat up the $11 million on the contract, but they're going to send us basically a nobody prospect. So that's the thing. The Mets can't have their cake and eat it too. They're either going to have to trade Colon to shed his contract completely and get a lesser prospect, or eat some of the contract and get a better prospect. I think they're better off just fucking dumping the contract on somebody and getting a lesser prospect. We really don't need prospects at this point. So let's do that. With the Mets doing that, their payroll would jump down to $75 million from what it was this year, 86. Okay, $75 million is their basically their starting point. So now they get to add payroll. First trade I make after the Colon trade will go and I'll call Colorado and I say, guys, listen, we want Carlos Gonzalez. You guys want pitching. You guys want some position prospects, right? We'll give you all that if you want. However, we're not giving you Matt Harvey, obviously, because that's what they're going to ask for, Matt Harvey. Then they're going to go down the line. They're going to ask for Zach Wheeler. The Mets are going to say no. Then they're going to go down the line after that and going to say Noah Syndergaard. The Mets might say yes, but I really, at the end of the day, think they're not going to trade him for Carlos Gonzalez. And instead, that's when the Rockies are going to ask for guys like Jonathan East, Dylan G, Rafael Montero, Steven Matz. Now it's all the question about who out of those four guys do you trade. If you're not trading Syndergaard, you're going to have to trade two of these guys. It's going to have to be between Neese and G, one of those guys, and Montero and Matz, one of those guys. Okay, why? Because Neese and G are in the rotation right now. They're veterans, while Montero and Matz are prospects. Matz is not even up in the majors yet. Okay, many people don't know who he is, but he's a lefty in our system who's pitching really well and rising through the ranks completely fast, just like Jacob deGrom did. So, that's, by the way, I forgot about Jacob deGrom. Look at that. They're going to ask for Jacob deGrom too, and the Mets are basically going to say he's untouchable, because he is at this point. He's really fucking good. So, I would then trade Dylan G and Steven Matz, and I'll explain why. I'm not trading Jonathan East because he's a lefty. He's paid considerably a little bit amount of money, and he's a veteran. He's an anchor in this rotation. He's been here for a while now, So I would not trade Jonathan East. We need him to be that lefty anchor in that rotation. I would rather trade Dylan G, and then out of Montero and Matz, I would rather trade Matz. Why? Because the way Montero has been pitching lately, his value has gone so down, it's unbelievable. Okay, but I'd rather the Mets take on the risk of keeping Montero than trading him away and have to trade even more prospects in that deal. Because if you think about it, if the Mets trade Dylan G and Montero in this deal for Cargo, they're going to have to send at least 4 pretty good pieces in the deal on top of that. Whereas opposed to if you send Matz, who hasn't pitched in the majors yet and has a lot of upside, and he's a lefty, okay, the Rockies might think of that, okay, he's a better pickup than Rafael Montero. So I would rather trade G and Matz and then package them around with Wilmer Flores, Brandon Nimmo, and Kevin Plawecki. I think that deal would get it done for Carlos Gonzalez. You're looking at Flores probably supplanting DJ LeMahieu at second base for Colorado. His offense is probably going to get picked up because right now he hasn't been well on the offensive side of the plate. But that's because he's playing shortstop, and he's not really comfortable there. Obviously, he won't have to play shortstop in Colorado if they keep Tulowitzki. But even if they don't keep Tulowitzki, he's not going to play shortstop. He's most likely going to play second base to supplant DJ LeMahieu. And then Brandon Nimmo is most likely going to be able to take Carlos Gonzalez's spot in the outfield eventually. So that's why you're sending those guys. And then Kevin Plawecki is going to replace Rosario at catcher, and Rosario can then move over to first base if they get rid of Justin Manoah eventually. So that's what they're going to look at. And then, of course, Dylan G will get thrown into the rotation right away. And then Matz would have to rise up through the ranks a little bit more and probably get called up mid-2015. And he'll get thrown into the rotation as well. That's a great deal for both sides. And then the Mets would eat up the $16 million from the contract for Cargo this year. Fine. What does that do to the payroll? Well, after you're shedding the $3 million from Dylan G's contract, and then I'm going to estimate $2 million between the other 4 guys, Matz, Nimmo, Flores, and Plawecki, and then you're adding 16, you're basically, in essence, only adding, 16 minus 2 is 13, minus 2 is 11. You're adding only $11 million to this payroll when you really think about it in that trade. So then the Mets payroll would jump up to $78.75 million, okay? So, and by the way, I forgot to mention that after Chris Young's contract is up, right, for the rest of the year, after they trade Colon is $75 million, it jumps down to $67.75 million. So after that trade for Cargo, then it'll jump back up to $78.75 million. Let me just clarify that. Next, this is the one that this video is going to mainly focus on, and that's for shortstop. Now, we have to get a little more creative here because we're not going to go after Tulowitzki, obviously, after trade for Cargo. And I don't think the Mets are going to go out and sign a shortstop like J.J. Hardy or Jed Lowry or Asdrubal Cabrera, and obviously not Hanley Ramirez. I just don't think it's worth it for any of these guys. Hanley Ramirez, first of all, he's gonna get re-signed by the Dodgers. Okay, there's no way in hell that the Dodgers are gonna let him walk like that, and there's no way in hell that the Mets are also gonna pay this guy. He's gonna get a contract that's higher than Tulowitzki's contract. So why on earth do you think the Mets are gonna get Hanley Ramirez? Is beyond me. That's not gonna happen. A guy like J.J. Hardy or Jed Lowry could command a contract similar to Johnny Peralta, what he got last year, which was like 4 years, $52 million. So that's 13 per. So that's not that bad, but at the same time, Johnny Peralta is better than any of those guys. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like that's not worth it. Instead, I think the Mets should still make a trade, but it's going to be for shortstop you guys probably didn't think of. And I'm going to go to the Cubs on this one. And no, I'm not going to ask for Starlin Castro, which was rumored early in the year. I think at this point what the Mets can do is try to snatch up shortstop Javier Baez, who's playing second base right now for the Cubs. It was already rumored that the Mets were looking and scouting at Javier Baez, and that's why I'm excited. I made this video on purpose around the Cubs series because I wanted to talk about Javier Baez, because the Met fans are going to get a first look at Javier Baez this entire weekend, because we're going to play the Cubs at Citi Field for these next 3 games. So, perfect time to make this video. Perfect timing, and I did it on purpose, of course. So, I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Mets to really focus on trying to trade for Javier Baez. This guy has amazing upside. However, the thing with him is he's going to command a trade that's going to include Noah Syndergaard. And there's a possibility that since he has a very small sample size so far this year, I mean, he's only played for like a week and a half now, and he's only going to have like a month and a half of major league service time by the end of the year. I think the trade that is going to have to get sent to the Cubs to try to get him, I think is only going to take Noah Syndergaard. It's going to be a 1-for-1 swap. And if I'm the Mets, I do it. Why? Because Javier Baez is not going to cost anything in money, and Noah Syndergaard obviously is not making money either. So it's basically a direct swap with like no money being swapped. You know, like at the most $1 million for both of those guys. You know, and it's just a $1 million for $1 million swap. A player for a player, a pitcher for a shortstop. You know, it's very realistic. The Cubs need pitching. They need young power pitching to go along with what's his name Kyle Hendricks, I believe, their new pitcher in the rotation. He's pitching pretty well. And Jake Arrieta, you know, and Travis Wood, Edwin Jackson. They need that top anchor guy. Noah Syndergaard is that guy. So especially Jeff Samardzija left. So I'm making the trade. Noah Syndergaard for Javier Baez. Yes, I'm making that trade also. And the payroll would stay at $78.75 million. And then what that's going to do is going to create flexibility for the Mets to go out and use the rest of that money on free agency to sign a closer like Huston Street. Sign him to a 3-year, $27 million type of deal, $9 million per, and the payroll bounce up to what it is this year, which is basically around $87 million. Holy shit. And then, of course, after that, you're going to have to count the arbitration raises for all the guys on the team. Guys like Lucas Duda, Daniel Murphy especially, Travis d'Arnaud, Zach Wheeler, guys like that. So I would estimate it to be around $12 million in arbitration. So the Mets payroll would bounce up only a little bit under $1 million, and $100 million, and I would predict it to be at $99.75 million. Okay, so that is a very reasonable set of trades and set of signings that the Mets can do. Then you're looking at a projected rotation of the top 3: Harvey, Wheeler, and no longer Syndergaard. It's going to be DeGrom. And at the end, it's Nice and Montero. Okay, the bullpen would be tremendously better with Huston Street being your closer, Bobby Parnell and Familia being your setup guys, Vic Black and Josh Edgin and Gonzalez Jimenez, your middle relievers, and then Henry Mejia, I believe, would then have to bounce into a different role. Not in the rotation, not as a closer, not as a middle reliever. I believe he needs to be the long reliever in that bullpen and the spot starter if anything happens to the rotation mid-year, because now Jeremy Hefner is out for the year. He's not a guy we're going to have to depend on at all next year, which is tragic. So you're going to have to probably re-sign a guy like Dice K. You have Henry Mejia. You got other guys in the system coming up eventually, guys like Gabriel Yanoa, Corey Mazzoni, Michael Fulmer. You know, another guy in the bullpen that might come up next year is Jack Leathersich. So the Mets have a lot of guys, you know. And with all these trades, the Mets keep a lot of prospects still. They keep Michael Conforto. They keep Dilson Herrera. They obviously keep Rafael Montero. They obviously keep Jacob deGrom. They keep Dominic Smith. So we keep some guys, you know, and we keep Matt Decker as well, if you think about it. So what do you guys think about this? So that's it for this video. I have really nothing else to say, but I just need to hear your guys' comments on this big trade that I think the Mets should go for next year. Is for Javier Baez from the Cubs. And we're going to see a lot of him this weekend when the Mets play the Cubs. And we'll see what he's all about. Everyone's raving about him. He has 30 home run, 100 RBI potential. So that's a big deal. And he's going to be a lot more comfortable coming to New York and playing at shortstop as opposed to him playing second base for the Cubs. Because obviously Starlin Castro's at shortstop. And that's not even counting Addison Russell when he comes up as well. What's going to happen with them? So the Cubs have the pieces to make Javier Baez expendable for sure. So what do you guys think about this video? I want you guys to comment down below on what do you feel about the chances of the Mets actually trying to pull a deal for Javier Baez and Carlos Gonzalez. And then you're looking at a lineup that would be stacked with Granderson leading off, Murphy, Wright, Cargo, Baez, Duda, Darnola, Garrison, the pitcher spot. I mean, that's just incredible. I think that would push the Mets to contention for next year for sure, hands down. And the payroll is still under $100 million around there, so it's very realistic. I think this is probably the most realistic deals I've ever put out on a video, so that's why I'm making this a big deal, as opposed to the other trades that I predicted that the Mets should make. But this, I feel like this is it. This is what the Mets need to do. So I'm going to call it here for this video. My next video will probably be around the start of September. I'm going to take probably, bearing something major happening between now and the August 31st deadline, if the Mets decide to trade Colon, bearing any of that happening, I will probably hold off until after the waiver trade deadline on August 31st to make my next video, because there's still a lot of baseball left to play, and I want to see what's going on, because really lately it's been all the same thing. The Mets have been losing, the Mets have been losing, the Mets have been losing. So I need to see a change, a drastic change in the next 2 weeks in order to make another video to keep it flowing. So, but I want you guys to keep subscribing to my channel so I can keep bringing you guys these videos. And that's it. I'm going to call it for here. I've been Metallica28. You guys keep watching my videos. I enjoy your support. I enjoy your comments. I comment you guys and reply to you guys as fast as I can. And if you guys have any video suggestions, please don't be shy and throw them out there. I would make the video for you guys if you want. It doesn't have to be the off-season series. It doesn't have to be the regular season series. It can be anything else. Any topic you guys want me to bring up, let me know. Shoot me in a message or comment on my videos. And I'll pretty much make the video and put it out there. So, okay, that's it for me. This has been part 10 of my 2014 regular season series. I'm Metallica28, and I'm out. You guys have a good day.